Almost there. We're so close. Hey, we are there. Hey, folks, thanks for tuning in to another pulse-pounding episode of Wild Cards. I'm your host, Mike Lafferty, here with your co-host, Ross Watson, and special guest, John Goff. Before we talk to everybody, I'm going to play our contractually obligated musical intro. Just 1 second. And that little video musical introduction you just saw assures you, gentle viewer, that you were listening to a high-quality, high-production values podcast. Gluten-free, farm-to-table, ethically sourced, geeky conversation for your podcast listening pleasure, not pressure. And here we have Mr. John Goff, noted RPG author who wrote the Night Train adventure.
That's right. And as a Guns N' Roses fan, I'm so excited someone took one of their songs and turned it into an adventure.
It's absolutely. Be really
Or is it actually about the Canberra-based hard rock band Night Train?
No, it was definitely GNR. I couldn't sell the Mr. Brownstone one.
I hate to correct you guys, but I believe the correct pronunciation is Guns N' Roses.
Okay. Well, to be serious for a second, Night Train is a well-beloved classic adventure for Deadlands that involves a train, nighttime, and vampires. Is that right?
I think you summed pretty much the entirety of the adventure up right there.
Show over. Fastest show ever. Okay, thanks, folks.
Done.
Well, in case our listeners don't know, Mr. Goff is a very prolific writer of vampire RPG material, having worked on not only things like Weird War I and Lost Colony, and Hell on Earth, but also numerous products for Vampire the Requiem.
Back then it was the Masquerade, I believe. Not to give my age away.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I just looked you up on RPG Geek, and I guess I got the wrong ones.
You may be correct. There may have been a couple of things I wrote once it shifted to the Requiem.
Okay. But the point is, you know your vampires. And you know your Weird West.
Here's hoping.
So why don't you?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, please.
I was going to say, I hope I know it by now, since I've been writing for it for 25 plus years.
Yeah, it was, speaking of which, 25th anniversary of Night Train. That's what we're here to talk about today. There's a new Pinnacle Kickstarter for the 25th anniversary of Night Train. John, in your own words, for our listeners, can you tell us what is the Night Train?
Well, it is. It goes all the way back to the very early days of Deadlands, when we made products called dime novels, which had a short story and then an adventure that were tied together. Usually the story was based on the adventure itself, and this was the third one of those we did, and the first thing I ever had published with Deadlands. And it's the introduction of vampires into the Deadlands spaghetti with meat Western universe. Before this, they hadn't done vampires, and I kind of felt like they really needed them in there, but I had to sell Shane on it. The Vampire the Masquerade was big, and the Anne Rice style vampire, the anguished protagonist style, was big at the time, and we really didn't feel like that fit with Deadlands. So that was one of the challenges, was making Bloodsuckers fit into the more graphic Deadlands horror universe.
And Shane says here in a little blurb on the Kickstarter that you were a game master for a game of Dungeons and Dragons at Virginia Tech, where he was a player. And that's how you guys met.
I was a few years ahead of him. I think I was in my sabbatical year at Tech between junior and senior year. And we met then, and through notice I posted on the wall in the local hobby shop. He and John Hopler joined with a group we had that I think we had 9 players in that D&D campaign, at least at the height of it. And he was just a freshman just getting started in college. And he says it was very different from the type of game he'd played in high school, because I had the advantage of 3 years of a group of amazing game masters behind me, where within our group, it wouldn't be out of the ordinary to have as many as 4 different campaigns running at once.
Wow.
Which explains my sabbatical year after my junior year of college.
Well, that sounds like a heck of a lot of fun. And so Night Train is your vision of how vampires would fit into a spaghetti western with weird science and stuff like that.
Yes, and it also addressed some problems that I had with even having vampires in an Old West setting, because it's not like a European setting where it's not that far between civilization and settlement. So a vampire can prey on an area and move before it gets too bad. But here, where you've got 30, 50 miles of sun-scorched desert that a vampire has to find a way to get across to feed somewhere, the traditional model just didn't really work for me. Now we've gone, since then, we introduced more traditional ones, I believe, in Noir, with Ken Hite writing them and just knocking that one out of the park as usual. But these guys were the first and probably the most prolific for a number of reasons. One of which is that I get to write in all of the Deadlands settings, so I make sure that something like them gets into all of them.
Nice. Now, what is that original adventure? What was that about? Kind of take us through the short version.
Well, the image on the Kickstarter page pretty much nails it. A train at night with a truckload of vampires on it, and backstory a little more complicated in that we had they came about in the Great Rail Wars, which was running through the initial run of the setting,
Right.
and we've advanced Deadlands pretty much timeline wise as time goes on. We started out, I think, in 1876, and we're now up into the 1880s. And the Great Rail Wars has been resolved and so forth, but these were to put it in today's term, terroristic weapon of mass destruction released by one of the rail barons onto other rail lines. And it's just a train full of these ravenous bloodsuckers that are all virtually mindless. They exist only to feed, that rolls up on unsuspecting towns and either just completely obliterates, stops, or overruns them and leaves behind more of their kind. So basically,
would you mind if I did a William Shatner dramatic reading of this paragraph here?
Go nuts.
The night train lurks along the tracks of the West, pulling in after dark to unleash its hellish cargo of starving feral vampires on unsuspecting towns along the rails. For decades, my train has terrorized tabletops and conventions. What will you do when its deathly whistle blows? Can your posse survive the onslaught? Many others have tried and failed. Thank you, and scene.
Outstanding. Now, can you do that like Christopher Walken?
Wow.
My wife has banned the walk-in voice from our house after an incident on our honeymoon, so I would like to do it.
Circle of information I needed to live my life. That one went somewhere over there.
I mean, I wish I could do it, because then I could come at this all wrong and talk about how the night train But no, seriously, folks, this is a
Actually
cool.
was not bad.
It's a really cool adventure. But this Kickstarter is not just for a reissue of the original adventure. It's actually a 72-page softcover book that has the original adventure with new rules. It's got a sequel called For Whom the Whistle Blows, and there's an all-new adventure called The Bank Job.
Oh, so this
So
is
it's
we
actually
get 3 adventures in one book.
Yeah, like a short campaign. And there's a special afterword. John, can you tell us about the afterword part of the book?
Well, let me take a look. See, they may have slipped that one in on me.
It
A
says it's
special
your
afterward
notes.
featuring John Goff's notes and convention recollections, celebrating the legendary expedition into the blood-soaked rails of Varney Flats.
Oh,
That was his
okay.
paragraph right here. Okay. Is this the first year? Are we breaking this news to you, sir?
You know, it honestly is possible I wrote that at some point, or and have forgotten it because I am getting old. It also might be something they are getting ready to ask me for that I should have, read ahead maybe and taken a hint. But yes, I do see that now.
Okay.
We've discussed quotes for the Kickstarter, but yeah, I will follow up on that because I will obviously be providing that if they don't already have it.
To be honest, I think it's exciting to see all 3 of these adventures together, but I'm even more interested in the convention recollections and notes for an adventure that's 25 years old. I think the history part is kind of fascinating. So I am put me down as somebody interested to see what you do there.
Well, it would be kind of cool to hear about how it plays.
For more than a decade, Shane has introduced me, if not for 2 decades, as John. I even have a Pinnacle shirt with Night Train on it. Shane has introduced me as John Night Train Goff. And I'm like, you make me sound like somebody that should be living under an overpass in a cardboard box. Horribly so. But and for probably a decade, I was like, come on, man, I've written so much more than that. Can I do something else? And finally I realized, you know what? That's okay, I guess. And until Noir came along, it was kind of what I was known for more than anything. And probably now that the heat from Noir has passed, this is once again what I'm better known for. Not like Lost Colony or The Hell on Earth Reloaded or Fear Agent or The Last Carson. No.
I really liked Hell on Earth and Lost Colony for what it's worth.
And I worked on Lost Parsec as well, so the 2 of us have that.
Oh yeah, that's right. The Lost Colony, I brainstormed with Cheyenne Wright a lot on how we would revise it for Reloaded. And I really liked it. I was really happy with how it came out, but it has always been one of our lesser known Deadlands settings. But no, Night Train is what I'm known for.
And this Kickstarter is going to have quite a bit of stuff beyond just the book too. It's going to have pawns, not only for the characters and the monsters, there's pawns for the train.
Yes,
which I think is cool.
And I've seen all the art and it's amazing. Aaron Acevedo and Simon they've been working on it for months, getting everything just right, and taking my notes that come in well past the 12th hour that, hey, no, maybe we should do this instead. And you can hear the verbal sighs. Where was he when we were showing him the pencils? But no, they've really done a great job. And a lot of the art that Aaron commissioned for the Night Train book itself is inspired by the art in the original dime novel. And I was really happy with how some of it turned out. I was real happy with how all of it turned out, but particularly the pieces where they drew inspiration and kind of redrew a piece that was already in the original. Now, I see you on the pawns. Well, no. The Nosferatu in the dress right there, if you zoom in on its face, I told Shane it reminds me of the character in Suits, Lewis, just wearing a dress with bad teeth.
Wow.
And after he looked, he said, I can't unsee that now.
I would zoom in more, but this is 400% right here. So
yeah,
Lewis lit.
Lewis lit from
there
Suits,
you go. Yeah.
You just got lit up.
Yep.
Well, I think that's really, really cool. And I want to point out, though, that the Kickstarter is not just for that either. There's 2 double-sided combat maps, 6 archetypes. Here's my next 2 are the actual one of my favorites. There's 10 toe tags that you can fill out as characters may end up dead. And there's 4 wanted posters for people to collect bounties or outlaws or along the way as they're tracking down the night train. And lastly, there's a special commemorative wild die with a locomotive.
And that's the one I'm waiting to see. I have not seen a mock-up on that yet, so I'm pretty excited about that too.
That is some cool swag.
Now, some of these, I don't know if I can take credit for, but I've been doing for a while. Like I have a stack of toe tags. I in fact had Cheyenne Wright, who's done a lot of art for us. He does when we do a promotional video for the Kickstarters, he does those. He's an amazing voice actor, just multi-talented. He's got 3 Hugo Awards, and
wow.
I got him to do.
I didn't know that.
Do me, yeah, from Girl
How
Genius.
is William Shatner though?
Are
we competitive at that level? I'm just curious. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. Cheyenne can do so much. But
okay.
I had him do me a night train logo at the point where I just said, okay, I'm embracing this. And I have toe tags and a stamp with the night train logo on it. And I have a matching wild die with that logo emblazoned on it that I would only give out to people that I ran convention adventures for. So that was kind of your freebie for the game was, here's the die for your wild die. And we found that dice really likes players. If they're rolling it against me, it aces probably 3 to 4 times as much as any other die does. But so I'm interested to see where they went with both of these. And I can't take credit for suggesting them. Oh, yeah, there you go. That if you look on the Kickstarter on the double-sided map in the upper right-hand quadrant above the wanted posters, you can see what I think is the mock-up of the die. Again, it's going to be tough.
There it is. Yep. There it is. I can see it. It is small, but our listeners may want to go check out this Kickstarter. We even set up a tiny URL so you can go see it. It's tinyurl.com/savagetrain, and that'll take you directly to the Kickstarter page where you can see all of this great material that we're discussing.
Oh, hey, there's someone like Brandon in the comments.
Sorry, John, you were saying?
Oh, I was going to say they really did pull out all the stops for the additional materials to make it more than just the adventure. And as you pointed out, there are 2 other adventures that are different takes on encountering the train itself. One of them is a longer, I wouldn't even say short campaign, but it's probably a few night adventure that follows along after. Maybe it would be good to play after the first encounter that your posse has with a night train, or if you don't want to do a night train itself, because I've been told it can be a little overwhelming to have a train roll up and 30 some vampires come rolling out. And that one we have, For Whom the Whistle Blows was the official sequel adventure. And we've had that one out for maybe since Reloaded. And all of them are now updated to Suede and the Suede version of Deadlands, including the timeline changes from the Morgana effect. And the bank job is... Well, it's a convention adventure, so I'll be honest, you're not meant to throw it. But in it, it gives you a chance to play a group of black hats, and they run into a night train in the process of, some crime. I can't imagine what they would be doing in a game called The Bank Job that might lead them, to be somewhere. But that one I came up with specifically for a convention and wanted to catch the players off guard, and it absolutely did. And it kind of was the inspiration for what I went on to with the For Whom the Whistle Blows, the second adventure. But they're very different, both in theme and application. It's just kind of how I had one thought seed that grew into two different trees. And it's never been seen in print before. And in fact, very few people have even played it. So,
well, I imagine you've got to be very proud that something that you've created has such a long legacy, and now it's getting this just showcase spotlight release. As a creator, I know I'd be very proud of it. So
I'm very pleased and honored, and a lot of the credit goes to Shane and the whole crew at Pinnacle for doing such a good job with a game that I was able to plug this into and it fit and people could have fun with in this situation. The fact that it's still around 25 years later and spoken of belovedly by some fans, which I just don't get because most of them died playing it. But it really just shocks me. And
surely you killed their characters, not the players. So,
6 of one, half dozen of another. No. But it's stunning to me because it is literally the first thing I ever published. And at the time I had no idea. And I had no idea, even 5 years after it was done, that it had the staying power that it has had. And I often get asked, why do people like it so much? And I'll be honest, at first I couldn't understand it. I mean, we set it up to be the Deadlands Tomb of Horrors. And in fact, that was the direction Shane gave me. When I started, he goes, I don't care what you make, I want the Deadlands Tomb of Horrors. I want something that people are going to really have to struggle to overcome. And I seem to have found the right balance here, because there are people that wear I survived the night train badges at conventions. I know one guy printed them up and was giving them out at the Pinnacle booth to everybody who had one had lived through it. And I think that's part of it. It's that the fact it has such a reputation at this point that you want to see if your character can beat it. And nobody goes into it blind anymore, I don't think. Nobody's, we're going to play Night Train. Oh, well, what's that? No, if you make it through this, you've got bragging rights. But I also think part of it was it lets the characters just cut loose. It's, for lack of a better word, it's almost like the fast zombies that became the popular zombies in the early 2000s. This was a little bit before that, so we didn't really have that in head, but the Dawn of the Dead remake or 28 Days Later, where it's not so much a social commentary as just a fun shoot 'em up. And you really don't have to do much but try to survive. You're not going to miss any clues. You're not going to make a mistake and shoot the wrong NPC. It's just a struggle for survival. And
it sounds like sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, it sounds like a very challenging but a very memorable adventure. Like you say, the bragging rights.
From what I've been told, yes. From what I've been told from other people, it is almost everyone calls it one of their most memorable, even if it's not the one they like the most for obvious reasons. I know there's one marshal who runs it at almost every convention he goes to. And he's the one I'd like to get the convention notes on, because he has probably run it 5 to 6 times more than me, at least. And I'm thrilled that people liked it and that they still like it and that it still holds a special place for them. I used to laugh because I saw on one of VH1's things where they had a 90s band that had one song that had ever gone anywhere. And they said, well, how does it feel to be a one-hit wonder? And the guy said, hey, it's better than a no-hit wonder.
Right?
I'm like, there was a tremendous amount of wisdom in that. Thankfully, Shane's let me keep writing long enough to where I finally, have done a few other things that people remember. But this is my baby, I guess. And I just, when Shane told me they were going to do a 25th anniversary, I was just ecstatic.
Well, it looks like a hell of a Kickstarter. I hope you guys do go check it out. And it's been a real pleasure having you on the show with us, John. I want to ask Mike if he's got any final thoughts before we wrap this up.
Oh, I just wanted to remark on that this is a good way to get all of the old Dime novels. If you wanted,
That's right.
Authors is Shane Hensley, another novel by Mr. Goff, Worms, Lester Smith, Matt Forbeck, and even famed assassin John Wick has a story in here. So,
and
we paid him a single gold coin for it.
Dark Sun creator Timothy Bryan Brown wrote a novel as well. So check all that out. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us, John. I really appreciated you kind of giving us the skinny on the Night Train. And we will look forward to see that on the shelf.
Well, thank you for having me. Man. It's been a tremendous pleasure.
And just to let people know, Kickstarter just barely started, and we're already funded $5,000 goal. You're almost at 80,000 right now, over 1,000 backers, and still 25 days to go. So over 3 weeks to jump on the Night Train. So
all aboard!
All aboard! All right, folks, we'll keep it fast, fun, and furious. We will catch you next time, probably about 2 weeks on Wildcards. Thanks for joining us.